Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge. Spin, spin, spin. We've heard those words before under the Glazers. Are we about to revolve around again under INEOS and the Glazers? It certainly seems so. The transfer warnings are going out. And I think some truths need to be told this morning, and they certainly will be, because I'm absolutely outraged at a story that's come out this morning, and I think every Manchester United fan should be outraged and ashamed again at the ownership structure of our football club. What is going on? Putting the Manchester back into Manchester United? Rubbish. Taking the pounds out of Manchester United to protect the Glazers is the message again, isn't it? We'll also be talking about Osimhen, an update on him, what could be happening in the January transfer window as more players turn their back on Manchester United and the prospect of a January transfer move. Two players that would solve United's problems overnight that INEOS will ignore. And Marcus Rashford to PSG. What's the story on that? We'll talk all about that. But look, this is a story that if you care about this football club, you should be all over like this, like I was all over turkey sandwiches on Christmas Day night. This is a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. If there is any truth in this, we need to stop having this wall of silence from INEOS, and they need to start acting like they actually give a shit about this football club, because I'm tired of the cost cutting. This would not have happened under Qatar. They would have brought money in. They would invest money in to generate money. I mean, it's a long-worn path in society and in football that you don't make money by cutting costs. You make money by spending money. If you look at Blackburn Rovers under Sir Jack Walker, they were an irrelevant club in the Championship and they won the Premier League with money. They never would have done it without it. So this whole cutting costs thing is a business theory that doesn't necessarily work in football. So what are we talking about here? Well, you may never have heard of this before, and I don't hold anybody accountable for this. The Association of Former Manchester United Players, AFMUP, has been receiving a significant sum from the club since 1985, but it has not received its last two quarterly payments of £10,000. So this organisation was established 4 decades ago to foster a sense of community among former United players, including those who did not make any first team appearances but signed a professional contract with the club. So they may have had to retire because of injury, etc. The charity is there to organise 4 annual events per year and offer financial assistance for causes such as funerals and local children's charities. So it provides support for former Man United players. Jim Elms, who's the 84-year-old trustee, said this: "We sent a letter to say we've not been paid by the club. Nobody came out and told us we had to send another letter. That's when we started hearing things that it was going to be the end of us." According to Elms, the United CEO, Omar Barada, delivered the news shortly before Christmas. Omar was non-committal. He's going to meet us again in January, but he said he couldn't see it changing. He didn't seem to think we were a necessity. We've been run since 1985, keeping the old players together, looking after the ones that couldn't pay for funerals. I just can't understand them myself. It's ridiculous. It's more than ridiculous. It's a disgrace. This football club may be about winning on the pitch. This football club may be about transfers, but this football club is community. And whether it's the United Stand or any other community or just the main community of Man United fans, this is an absolute disgrace. And you'll get people this morning moaning about style of play and this, that and the other. This is a bloody disgrace. This is not what we want at our football club. Good people are being sacked. Good people are not getting bonuses, and now good people are having their costs cut. Now, the next step will be, we need to do this because the club's in trouble. No, we don't need to do this because the club's in trouble, because there was an offer on the table from somebody who was going to come in, pump money into the club, nobody would have lost their job, and we wouldn't be cutting costs on charities like this. We're cutting costs because your plan is to cut costs. I'm not being guilt-tripped on this, and I don't think any United fans being guilt-tripped on this. You cannot put stories out, we're doing this to cut costs. You're cutting costs because you did a deal with the Glazers and you only bought 25% and the club is screwed. There was another option, stay out of it, let the Glazers sink. They'd have to sell the whole club, and we'd have owners who'd be pumping money in and not taking it away from people who bloody well need it. It's an absolute disgrace. You must not get guilt-tripped by the press and everybody else who are putting stories out there that we need to cut costs and we can't spend money in January. It's complete and utter nonsense. They need to cut costs because their plan stinks. They're cutting costs because they don't want to put money in. It's an absolute disgrace. And this has been going on for a year now. Good people having money taken away from them so that INEOS and the Glazers can continue with this cutting costs. What's this about being a lifelong Man United fan? What's this about putting the Manchester back into Manchester United? If I was Gary Neville, I'd walk away from this association with INEOS. It's an absolute disgrace at this moment in time. And just because you might be regenerating Old Trafford and building a few more buildings, I'd be walking away. As a former player, Gary Neville and anybody else involved with INEOS should be saying something and walking away. This is a guy who tweets about Labour, tweets about Keir Starmer, tweets about politics. As a former player, he should be over this like a fucking rash, saying it's an absolute disgrace. I know it's only 40k a year, but it's for a good cause. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And I think INEOS at the moment, they've had the benefit of the doubt, but I think the doubt is there now. Some of the stuff they're doing, some of the stuff they're being associated with is a disgrace. And it's time. I even look at the Sir Alex Ferguson stuff now and I'm not convinced. I defended that. I'm starting to question that. A lot of people said they sacked Sir Alex. Maybe they did. I just think nothing's beyond it now. It's an absolute disgrace what they're doing, and that needs to get called out. That was not what the show was going to be all about, by the way. I just think some things are very important. We're a big community. You know, people accuse this community of being negative. They don't watch it. Actually, we are here and always will be here for a voice to get it out there for things that matter. And there's no bigger voice than this. So, you know, Manchester Evening News might write an article, hardly anyone will read it. A lot of people will have heard that last few minutes, and I implore you to clip it and share it. It's important. And that, man, I've done a big sneeze. That was a big sneeze. Anyway, let's segue into what I was going to be talking about this morning. I was going to be talking about spin. And I think that where we are at the moment is that over the last 10 years, you know this, I know this, when Man United have bad results, the spin comes out. We're signing Gareth Bale. Ronaldo's coming back. We're going to buy a £100 million player in January, in the summer. I feel that we are basically the Glazers' ownership with a different name. And that's how I feel about Man United at the moment. I don't feel that anything's actually changing. Chaotic decisions, cost-cutting, bad results on the pitch. I don't really see anything changing apart from Amorim. But then again, we had Rangnick. So it's not the first time that we've had a manager that talks sense. So I'm not even going to give INEOS credit on that. And they probably don't like how much sense he's actually talking. I mean, the way they're cutting costs, I imagine they're not happy that Rashford's not playing because that's a £300 a week, 300 grand a week player that's not playing. So I don't like what's going on at Manchester United at the moment. And I am very, very concerned that we are wandering in to another January transfer window where we will do what the Glazers want, which is not spend money and spin out this whole FFP, PSR nonsense to cover their own backs because they don't want to spend money. Any Manchester United fan worth their salt at the moment knows what we need to do. And I don't want to be in a situation every January transfer window where we're saying open heart surgery, spend a couple of £100 million. I don't want that. I'd love to be in a situation like Liverpool where they didn't really do anything in the summer transfer window. I don't mind doing that. I'd love to have a team like that. We sort of did do that quite a few years under Sir Alex. But I don't trust this team. It's not good enough. It's 14th in the league. We need to remove players and we need to bring players in. Anybody knows that as an owner. I heard a lot of you saying on Thursday, was it Wednesday? Boxing Day was Wednesday. No, Boxing Day was Thursday. On Thursday, when we played against Wolves, a lot of people just said, watching this Wolves game, if we took Alt Nouri and Kuna and put them on our left-hand side, we'd be a better team overnight. And we would. Doesn't mean you have to buy Wolves players. Doesn't mean you have to buy 2 players, you could buy 3. But the point is, we definitely would be a better side with those 2 players. And yet, we don't do it. So I think that where we are at the moment is, it's just spin, 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 cutting costs. We can't spend money. It's a really difficult situation. And in a sentence, this is the story. INEOS and the Glazers are cutting costs and pleading poverty. If the Glazers had sold the club, we'd be the richest club in the league, and we wouldn't be pleading poverty. And that's it. Add the rest yourself, because no one can argue with it. A load of people told us, INEOS, putting the Manchester back into Manchester, lifelong Man United fan, we're cooking. And then some people said, look at Nice, 25% is not even 50%, and the Glazers are still here with a shitload of debt and the majority ownership. And here we are a year down the line, we're still cutting costs. In fact, we're cutting more costs than we've ever done. I just don't like this model. I don't like it. We didn't need to do it. We didn't need an owner to come in and go, there's loads of debt, we've got to make harsh decisions, we've got to sack a load of people, we've got to cut costs. We didn't need to do that. There was an option there of rich people coming in and going, you don't need to cut costs because we've got the money. We've got all this money. We're not people that, if we give you £1, we want £1.50 back. We're people that will give you £100 back and we'll just enjoy the publicity. So that's the fundamental thing that people cannot argue with. There was 2 options on the table: get into bed with the Glazers and help them survive, or get into bed with a new owner who is absolutely loaded. And a lot of people wanted the Glazer thing, and this is what we've got now. I understand why people didn't want the guitar thing, but choices were made, and here we are. Bottom line is, you want an analogy, the Glazer ownership at Manchester United was like roadkill. They'd been knocked down, they were done, they were breathing their last breath, and then Sir Jim and INEOS came along with all their technology and saved them. And that's what happened. We were that close. We were that close. And INEOS came in and rescued them. Anyway, what does that mean for the January transfer window? Well, where we're at the moment, it don't look great, bruv. Look, the Nuno Mendes story is very interesting, and that leads into the Rashford story, and we'll start with that because it's a bit positive. But the updates around Osimhen, Ederson, and Kuna are very depressing. They're very depressing. And again, in a summary, Osimhen wants to stay at Galatasaray till the summer. Obviously, because he knows if he continues scoring goals, there'll be more people looking for him in the summer, and there'll be more options and more money. You can understand that. Ederson at Atalanta is a no-go because Atalanta are doing very well. They're going for a league title in Italy, and they don't want to sell, and they'd want silly money. And Kuna at Wolves don't want to sell either, and Kuna, again, is apparently more than happy to wait till the summer, see what the options are, more options, more money. So Man United are absolutely in the trouble there. Spinios is a good name, Common. Yeah, well, they are Spinios, aren't they? Because they never bloody say anything. John Walker says, I don't trust INEOS at all. Watch the stripping of land assets in the sake of taking the property away and leaving us with debt. How much of this property that we're going to regenerate as well is going to be owned by the government, owned by other companies? I mean, if Qatar had got hold of Man United, they would have regenerated the area around Old Trafford and owned it all. They would have owned all the cinemas, all the restaurants. They would have owned it all. INEOS and the Glazers are trying to get governmental spending. They're trying to get other commercial partners to come in. So if there is a cinema complex, it will be owned by a cinema company. If there is transport in there, it will be owned by the council. This is just people don't have the brain they think they've got when they look at what's going on with Manchester United. That regeneration of the Old Trafford area will not be making a lot of money for us. We'll make money off it, but we'll use it to allow us to build a stadium, a new stadium, and we'll knock Old Trafford down. And that'll be the legacy of the Glazers and INEOS, by the way. They'll be the people that knock Old Trafford down. And all the people that want a new stadium, in about 10 years, they'll be crying that we haven't got Old Trafford anymore because the history's been ripped out of the club. And all the people who are sat here now saying we shouldn't be knocking Old Trafford down will go, we told you so. Because it's exactly what Arsenal fans say about the Emirates. So that will be their legacy as well. Half measures like small cost cutting and increasing ticket prices as a fix is deluded. Removing Deadwood would make the biggest financial difference, says Patrick Lynch. Well, you're absolutely spot on. £40,000 a year to this charity for ex-Man United players. £40,000 a year. So you are causing yourself massive damage from a PR point of view. You're making Man United fans dislike you even more for 40 grand a year. 40 grand a year. Victor Lindelof's on 120 grand a week and hasn't started a Premier League game since March. But the damage of cutting 40 grand a year when you're giving someone like Lindelof 120 grand a week, they're clueless. They haven't got a fucking clue what they're doing. They haven't got a clue. Nothing surprises me with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He hasn't a clue about the club he loves, might love the club, but doesn't love the people that are at the club, says Andy Cheetham. I've questioned this before. I'm yet to be convinced. I don't think Sir Jim Ratcliffe understands a lot about football. I don't. The evidence is there. I don't think he understands a lot about football. Lifelong Man United fan, right? I know people who support football clubs and they know nothing about it. They just go, well, yeah, I support this club. I know people who support a football club and know absolutely everything about it. I don't think Sir Jim Ratcliffe comes across as a guy that's like you. I don't think he comes across as a guy that's waking up in the morning and watching the United stand at 10 o'clock and then, reading articles and books and watching videos and thinking about transfers and what we should do against Newcastle. I don't think he's doing any of that. I think he's a rich guy who has, and that's not a problem, but I think his whole life is about business. And on the side is this little bit of, I like football. But I don't think he's absorbed by football. How could he be? He's built a petrochemical empire and he's a businessman. Everybody I know who works in business are workaholics. And if you're a workaholic, you're not thinking about Man United striker. You're thinking about, my accountant, what's going on here. He doesn't strike me as a guy that really has a clue about football, because I'm not impressed by the first 12 months. And I know if I gave you the job of Sir Jim Ratcliffe 12 months ago, I'd already be seeing some of the easy things that should have happened. And when I say some of the easy things, why has it taken 12 months for a manager to realise that we need to start selling people like Rashford when it was very obvious 12 months ago? And Sir Jim Ratcliffe should have known that as a United fan. I don't need a manager or a CEO to come into the club and tell me you need to start selling some of these big earning players. I would have known it as a fan over the last 5 years. I'd have walked in 12 months ago and I would have said, Rashford concerns me, Casemiro concerns me, we've got no left back, Bruno's an issue. What are we doing with the likes of Maguire, Lindelof, Eriksen? Luke Shaw is a busted flush. All these people are still here a year later. But as a Man United fan, lifelong, I would have known all this from day one. And as the owner, I would have said, get rid of them. He sat there and gone, at the end of the day, it's a vanity project. You regenerate Manchester. You hopefully make a bit of money, and we'll trust Omar. It's business orientated as far as I'm concerned. Niki says he's Sir Scrooge Radcliffe. I can understand this unhealthy obsession with Arab investors. Club belongs to the fans, says the Himalayan Pig. Yeah, you might want to check the ownership of Man United. It hasn't belonged to the fans ever, for a very long time at least. Morning, Mark. Heading out for my morning workout. Catch you guys later in the evening, says Rub. Thank you very much. Worse than the Glazers, says Mark Wyatt. And if INEOS didn't buy Man United, you could have signed Todibo, says Luca. I don't trust INEOS at all, says John Walker. Watch the stripping of land assets. We've done that one. So let me talk to you about PSG and Mendes and Rashford. So we had this story last night about Mendes and Man United. Now look, in many ways, we are taunting the bull. We are here with the red and we are going like this to INEOS. You're useless. You're really useless. We are doing that. I'll admit that. We've got the red cape and we're going, you are shit. You're worse than the Glazers. You're just going to spin us through January and buy nothing. And we're hoping that that bull is going to react to it and charge at us and actually do something. So I am hoping that something will happen in the transfer window. And maybe when you've got someone like Fabrice Hawkins talking about Mendes, he's not the sort of person that's going to spin a story for Man United. I think if a story is going to get spun, I would be looking at British journalists, not someone like that. But what we are hearing is that Man United would love to do a deal with PSG for Mendes and Marcus Rashford going the other way. And we know that PSG have been big admirers of Marcus Rashford in the past. And we also know that Marcus Rashford's team and entourage see Paris and PSG as, if you've got to leave Man United, this is not a bad move to make. Essentially, there is an Mbappe hole at PSG. Now, Rashford is not Mbappe, but his PR is big. If he went and played at PSG, there's a massive amount of publicity there. There's a lot of shirts to be sold there. Paris is very close to England, so it's not that far away for Rashford. This could be a dream ticket for everybody. The issue is PSG feel aggrieved that they got used 2 years ago by Rashford's entourage to get him a new contract. And also, PSG don't want to pay £50 million and give Rashford 300 grand a week. So they're the stumbling blocks at the moment, but there is work and conversations as there was in the summer. There's a good relationship between Manchester United and PSG, which is weird considering Qatar owned PSG and INEOS screwed them over, but there is a good relationship there, as we saw with Agate and as we saw with George Mendes, who helped PSG get one of our targets, the Benfica lad, and we ended up with Agate. So there could still be something going on there. And what we're hearing is that this would be a deal that Man United would like to do, and this would be a deal that Rashford would like to do. I certainly feel that with Rashford, he's expected not to be involved in the game against Newcastle. The next game is January the 5th. So you would expect big news in the first few days of January, and at the moment there isn't really any news around where he's going to go. So maybe there is something in this. I actually think it would be a good deal all round. I really, really do. Hi Mark, what happened to Harry Amos? Hasn't had chance to fill in the left wing back spot after looking good in pre-season. I was hoping he'd push on, says Tom. I mean, look, realistic here. Amos looked good in pre-season, but he's 17. There's not many 17-year-old fullbacks that start playing in the Premier League. Ten Hag didn't use him. Amorim hasn't used him. I think that it would be a fair assessment to say that he's probably not ready based on two managers not using him. I understand, Henry, that there is... I understand, Tom, that there is a desire in the fan base for Amos to be involved, especially when we haven't got a left back, and I certainly agree. But the only explanation I can come up with is that that probably is the reason that they don't feel he's ready for it. Mark, I saw a video online that Man United wages is the second highest in the league and you're 14th in the league. That's where you cut your costs, says Henry. 100%. 100%. It's a disgrace. Our wage bill has been a disgrace for a very long time, and it is a disgrace. Morning, Mark. Heading out. I've done that one as well. I mean, just talking about Luke Shaw and left back, by the way. I don't know what they're drinking in Napoli, but apparently there's a website for Napoli that are saying that they're interested in Luke Shaw in January. I had to check the dates. I had to check today's dates. I mean, there's not a football club in the world that's going to sign Luke Shaw. Absolutely not a chance. I mean, I only bring it in for a bit of comedy in a show that's been very serious. Napoli want Luke Shaw. Yeah, absolutely. Just no. I mean, the guy hasn't played football for 18 months, really. He pretty much missed all of last season and has missed all of this season. Nobody is going to buy him. Nobody's going to go near him. Like, no one will go anywhere near Mason Mount. Clubs are not stupid. They don't look at players and go, you're a good player when you're fit, but you're never fit. It's absolutely pointless. There's no point. Absolutely none. It's like a porn star who can't get a fucking hard on. There's just, you're not going to use him. It's a waste of time. Hi, Mark. We've done that one. We should buy Alvaro Fernandez. Give them both away for free, says Stephen. Look, I don't feel guilty about this. If you're cutting costs to an organisation that's a charity to help ex-players with funeral costs, if the football... I mean, I can't it might be a little bit boring to some of you lot, but to a lot of us, it's disgraceful. If you're cutting costs that help pay for funerals for players that used to play for this football club, then I am not going to apologise for what I'm about to say. If you're cutting costs in that area, if you're putting good people on the, out of work, then why the hell are you giving Luke Shaw 170 grand a week when he hasn't been fit for 18 months? Why the hell are you giving Mason Mount 250 grand a week when he's not been fit for 18 months? Why the hell are you giving Casemiro 350 grand a week when he never fucking plays? It's a disgrace. The message that's coming out of this football club is disgusting. And you know what it is? It's a typical old style tactic in business. Pull the ladder up, Jack, and sod the rest. When you need to cut the fat, don't go for the greedy people, go for the poor people. And this has happened throughout history. If you want to save money, you don't go after the big people, you go after the little people. And that's exactly what's happening here. They're saving 40 grand a year here and they're sacking a 40 grand a year salary there. And you've got people sat on their fucking arse doing nothing in a Man United shirt other than embarrassing themselves and us. The message is a disgrace. And I just think that why is it that we're the only ones shouting about this? Like, what happened to this football club? If this was happening at Liverpool, oh my God. I don't like Liverpool. You don't like Liverpool. They're our biggest rival, but they don't fuck about when it comes to things like this. It would not be allowed to happen at Liverpool. They would go absolutely mad. It would be all of their fan base. They'd probably not turn up to the ground. They would get it done. And I don't know what's happened to Man United. We talk about this amazing history and this amazing fan base, and it's so broken, it's unbelievable. There's so many organisations being led by people that are so sanctimonious, telling people they're not real fans, follow us. And we get nothing done. And then what happens is, these organisations get an invite from the CEO, and it's like, oh, we'll change now, we've got a foot in the door, because they become corrupted by greed. You know, you get invited into chats on the fan forum, or you get invited in for a chat with Omar, and it's like, oh, we've got our foot in the door now, and they become all corporate. They lose the core of what they are. You shouldn't be being invited there. They should be begging you, please, please, you're causing us problems with everything that you're saying. A proper fan community is not about, oh, the club have invited us in, we're in. Fuck that. Who are the club? What do they represent? What's the problem? That's the problem. What do the club represent? They don't represent what the club's all about. They're sacking people. They're cutting costs on people that need the money. And yet, oh, we've been invited in. Oh, don't watch the United stand. Don't read that website article. They're not real fans like us. We're top Reds. We've been invited into the club. Fuck off. Bring everybody together on things that matter. Because I tell you, at Liverpool, this wouldn't happen. It's a disgrace. And also, I'm going to call Gary Neville out as well. He's the Prime Minister of football. He's an ex-player. He should be all over this. Forget building a few more buildings in Manchester, Gary. Forget, you've got enough money. You should be a crusader for this. You should be all over this. Like beans on toast. You should be all over this. You should be finding the truth out. What's going on here? And why are we cutting costs there? I'm not standing for this. I'm standing with the United fans. That's what we need. Disgusting. Anyway, what else did I want to talk about? Yeah, we've spoken about the Osman story, haven't we? We've spoken about Edison. Yeah, I mean, look, nobody said it was easy. Chris Martin, Coldplay. Nobody said it was going to be easy, but it shouldn't be this hard. Where we are at the moment, all I detect is it's really hard. It's really hard. We can't do anything because it's really hard. And I just think nobody's that thick. Nobody's that thick at all. I was literally talking to somebody over Christmas and they were going, these are the words, right? These are the words. I was at Centre Park, so I was having a pint in the pub, and this is the words, right? You've got to feel sorry for INEOS because they've inherited a horrible situation and there's just no money. And I went, put my pint on the table. I said, I've got to feel sorry for INEOS. Nobody begged INEOS to take this fucking football club. They shafted every other bid because they went right the way down. 100% they wanted. They wanted to buy all of the club. Then it was 50%. Then it was 25%. They just wanted a piece of the pie at whatever cost. And what we've ended up with is 25% of INEOS, 28%, 50% of the Glazers, and about 30% of shareholders. This is not something to feel sorry for. This is a setup. This is the status quo. This is keeping the... I mean, look, the Glazers still own half the football club. All these decisions that are going on, we're cutting costs here, we're cutting costs there. It ain't just Sir Jim Ratcliffe. In honesty, it might be Sir Jim Ratcliffe fronting Glazer choices. The club's a bloody joke and no one even knows how it's being run. All these journalists writing shit about shit, and not one of them has actually done what they went to university to do. Nobody's wrote the piece on actually how it works at Man United. No one knows what's going on. It could be Joel Glazer saying, cut the costs there, sack Sir Alex, sack all these people, no Christmas parties, and that organisation cut their costs. Read the contract, you've got to front it. I'm off back to Tampa. Nobody knows whether that's what's going on there. I'll tell you what, though, if you know anything about United, Joel Glazer hasn't given up any power. He was involved in the daily running of Man United for 10 years. He's still got 50%. He hasn't just suddenly gone, I'll leave it to you, Sir Jim. And Sir Jim's too busy with his boats. So there ain't no way the Glazers aren't still involved. And they knew what they were walking into. Exactly, Andy. They knew exactly what they were walking into. So I'm just disgusted with it at the moment. And I don't see a massive improvement coming unless Amorim is backed and can work a miracle. I think we are hindered massively. And I don't think we're at that point yet where it can't work. I'm not going to say INEOS out. A lot of people are saying that. But I'm INEOS outraged. And I think... if they're not careful, they're going to end up in a point where protests are back and people want them out. I think they're fast-tracking their way towards that. And they're ridiculously naive if they think they're going to get away with that not happening. There are a lot of people getting very, very angry, very, very quickly. We're not seeing results. We're not seeing changes on and off the pitch. And it'll all come flooding back. And the minute those protests start, you're done. You've lost the trust. And I think they're losing trust all over the place. Absolutely. CSL says it's over for INEOS already. They need to get out and take the Glazers with them. Patrick Lynch says, Mark, is it not scary? The financial situation could be dire if they think 40k saving is worth it, says Patrick. Exactly. And that's my point, really. If they think saving £40,000 is worth it, then imagine just how bad the financial situation is. I mean, if they need to save £40,000... People saying Rome wasn't built in a day, but Rome died an agonisingly slow death as well. Ended with mercenaries and bureaucrats ruining it, says JDip. And if they don't back Amorim and he ends up getting the sack, I'd be fuming. Best man we've had since Sir Alex, says Scott. Should do a GoFundMe for the charity. 13k watching mark each. That's the quarterly payment, says Andy Cheatham. Andy, you're way ahead of the game. If this is true... then we will start from January the 1st doing charity events to raise that 40k. We did 40k in a day on That's Football for people with terminal illness. So if INEOS don't come out and clarify that that's a load of bollocks, then we will start as a community here raising the 40k per year that organisation needs 100%. 100%. We will do it. By hook or by crook, we will start making a contribution to that and we'll start events to do it because... that'll make INEOS look even more fucking stupid. It's a disgrace. And also, we can do that, but Bruno Fernandez could do that. Bruno Fernandez could go as a current Man United player, Bruno Fernandez could say, I only need, how many players have they got? 30 players? I only need £1,000. Actually, I only need £100 off you a month. 12 months, it's 1,200 a year off each of you will make the 40k up. It's disgusting. You know when you think of it like that, if every Man United player gave £100 a month to that organisation, they'd virtually cover the 40k. £100 a month, and some of them are on 120 grand a week. So it's disgusting. It's disgusting. INEOS need to come out and say this is not true. Yeah. Andy, thank you very much. From the frying pan and into the fire, says Josh. Glazios skint and no transfers January. Amrim angry, says Scott Treacher. We didn't even have the new owner bounce, says Neem. Is all the cost cutting worth it if the Glazers are still taking dividends, says Gino. Yeah, look, I think the next few weeks are going to be very interesting. I still live in hope that transfers will be their way out because spin is how you do it. Spin equals win-win with fans. It always has done. If you buy a couple of players, you sell a couple of players, it will give you more time, and INEOS will have surely learnt that from the Glazers. The amount of times we went into a summer in May with Glazer out, and then by June it's all forgotten because we bought a couple of players. So this is their opportunity. January, if they don't take it, I think we're going to see protests starting very, very quickly. Ross says, INEOS equals Glazer puppets going after the little guys, says Rosh. I've got a lot of PA gear for a charity event, Mark, says Thomas. Great stuff. Well, we'll see what happens with this. We'll see what happens with this. But, yeah, it's not looking good, is it? Let's hope that there is going to be some activity in January for Amrim's point of view, because on a purely football comment, it's a back scratcher, by the way. I might have shown it you before. It's very good. I got it for Christmas in a Secret Santa. So you can extend it. It's an extender. And then it's very, very good. Oh, yeah. In a footballing sense, if Amrim has to keep working with this squad, he'll be done. He'll be finished. They've got to get players in. 100%. Thanks, everyone, for watching. What day is it? It's Christmas still. Saturday. No football today in the Premier League, which is weird. But I'm about to put out my predictions on That's Football. That should be out around midday for you. And we will have a preview for Newcastle going out a little bit later as well. I might do that live, actually. Should we do a preview live? It is Saturday. I can do a Saturday night 8 o'clock show. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. We'll keep it live. We'll keep it real. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Take care. Let's hope INEOS are going to backtrack and do something about this. It's a disgrace, and people need to be vocal about it. Speak to you in all a bit. Take care.